She had brought up bits of old packing cases and the seats of broken kitchen chairs and things of that sort, and spread them across from rafter to rafter, so as to make a bit of a floor. Here she kept a cash box containing various treasures and a story she was writing, and usually a few apples. She often drunk a quiet bottle of ginger beer. In there, the old bottles made it look more like a smuggler's cave. Diggory quite liked the cave. She wouldn't let him see the story, but he was more interested in exploring. "Look here," he said. "How long does this tunnel go on for? I mean, does it stop where your house ends?" "No," said Polly. "The walls don't go out to the roof. It goes on. I don't know how far." "Then we could get the length of the whole row of houses." "So we could," said Polly. "And oh, I say." "What?" "We could get into the other houses." "Yes, and get taken up for burglars. No thanks." "Don't be so jolly clever. I was thinking of the house beyond yours." "What about it?" "Why, it's the empty one. Daddy says it's always empty ever since we came here." "I suppose we ought to have a look at it, then," said Diggory. He was a good deal more excited than you'd have thought, from the way he spoke. For of course he was thinking just as you would have been, of all the reasons why the house might have been empty so long. So was Polly. Neither of them said the word haunted, and both felt that once the thing that had been suggested, it would be feeble not to do. "Shall we go and try it out now?" said Diggory. "All right, then," said Polly. "Don't if you'd rather not," said Diggory. "I'm game if you are," said she. Ow. "How are we to know when we're in the next house but one?" They decided they would have to go out into the box room and walk across it, taking steps as long as the steps from one rafter to the other next, to the next. That would give them an idea of how many rafters went to a room. Then they would allow about 4 more for the passageway between the 2 attics in Polly's house, and then the same number for the maid's room. As for the box room, that would give them the length of the house. When they had that distance twice, they would be at the end of Diggory's house. Any door they came to after that would let them into the attic of the empty house. But I don't know. But I don't expect it's really empty at all, said Diggory. What do you expect? I expect someone lives there in secret, only coming in and out at night, with a dark lantern. We shall probably discover a gang of desperate criminals and get a reward. It's all rot to say a house would be empty all those years unless there was some mystery. Daddy said it must be the drains, said Polly. Pooh! Grown-ups are always thinking of uninteresting explanations, said Diggory. Now that they were talking by daylight in the attic instead of by candlelight in the smuggler's cave, it seemed much less likely that the empty house would be haunted. When they had measured the attic, they had to get a pencil and do a sum. They both got different answers to it at first, which isn't uncommon for math, just saying, nor science. Science is just a mess, in all frankness. Anyway, when they had measured the attic, they had to get a pencil and do a sum. They both got different answers to it at first. And even when they agreed, I am not sure they got it right. They were in a hurry to start on the exploration. We mustn't make a sound, said Polly. As they climbed in again behind the Cistern. Whatever that word is. Because it wasn't an important occasion, they took a candle each. Polly had a good store of these in her cave. It was very dark and dusky and drafty. And, oh, that is a beautiful illustration. And they stepped from rafter to rafter without a word, except when they whispered to one another. We're opposite your attic now, or this must be halfway through our house. And neither of them stumbled, and the candles didn't go out. And at last they came where they could see a little door in the brick wall on their right. There was no bolt or handle on this side of it. Of course, for the door had been made of, God damn you, I lost my spot. Go away. And of course, for the door had been made for getting in, not for getting out. But there was a catch. As there often is on the inside of a cupboard door, which they felt sure they would not be able to turn. Shall I? Said Diggory. I'm game if you are, said Polly, just as she had said before. Both felt that it was becoming very serious, but neither would draw back. Diggory pushed round the catch, with some difficulty. The door swung open, and then suddenly, daylight made them blink. Then, with a great shock, they saw that they were looking not into a deserted attic, but into a furnished room. But it seemed empty enough. It was a dead silent. Polly's curiosity got the better of her. She blew out her candle and stepped out into the strange room, making no more noise than a mouse. It was shaped, of course, like an attic, but furnished as a sitting room. Every bit of the walls was lined with shelves, and every bit of the shelves was full of books. A fire was burning in the grate. You remember that it was a very cold, wet summer that year. And in front of the fireplace, with its back toward them, was a high-backed armchair. Between the chair and Polly, and filling most of the room, was a big table piled with all sorts of things. Printed books and books of the sorts you would write in, and ink bottles and pens and sealing wax, and a microscope. Keep in mind, this was during older times when microscopes were not easy to come by. But what she noticed first was a bright red wooden tray with a number of rings on it. They were in pairs, a yellow one and a green one together. Then a little space, and then another yellow one and another green one. They were no bigger than ordinary rings, and no one could help noticing them because they were so bright. They were the most beautiful, shiny little things you can imagine. If Polly had been a very little younger, she would have wanted to put one in her mouth.